My neighbor was a monster. She attacked my kids, sprayed my dog, and lied to the HOA, so I documented everything. I am 38, moved into my dream house 6 months ago. It's in a quiet, suburban neighborhood with good schools for my 2 kids, F10, M8, and a nice big yard. It was everything my wife, Sarah, F36, and I had ever wanted. Or so we thought. We quickly discovered that we had a Karen for a neighbor. Her name is Brenda, F50s I'm guessing, and she lives directly across the street. From the moment we moved in, she's made our lives a living hell. It started small. The first week, we were still unpacking and we had a few boxes on our front porch. Brenda marched over, uninvited, and started lecturing us about how the boxes were an eyesore and violated the neighborhood aesthetic. I apologized and moved the boxes inside immediately. I thought that would be the end of it. I was wrong. Over the next few weeks, Brenda found something to complain about every single day. Our lawn wasn't mowed frequently enough, even though we mowed it weekly. Our kids were playing too loudly in the backyard during daylight hours on a Saturday. Our trash cans were left out too long after collection day by about an hour because I was at work. Our car was parked too close to the curb. It was perfectly legally parked. We had a bird feeder in our backyard, which she claimed was attracting undesirable wildlife, squirrels. She'd leave passive-aggressive notes on our door. She'd yell at us from across the street. She'd even call the HOA, Homeowners Association, to report us for minor infractions. At first, Sarah and I tried to be polite. We tried to reason with her, to explain our side of things. We even tried to apologize, even when we hadn't done anything wrong. We thought maybe she was just lonely or stressed, or maybe she just needed a friend. But it became clear that Brenda wasn't interested in being reasonable. She was interested in controlling us, in dictating how we lived our lives. She started targeting our kids. She'd yell at them for playing in their own yard, for riding their bikes on the sidewalk, for even laughing too loudly. She'd tell them they were disrupting the peace and that they should go play somewhere else. My kids started to become afraid of her. They'd run inside whenever they saw her. They'd whisper when they were playing outside. They'd even ask if they could go to a friend's house instead of playing in their own backyard. It was infuriating. It was heartbreaking. Then, Brenda took it to the next level. We have a small dog, a friendly, well-behaved golden retriever named Buddy. Buddy is an important part of our family, and the kids adore him. One afternoon, I was working in my home office when I heard Buddy barking frantically in the backyard. I ran outside to see what was going on. I found Brenda standing at our fence, yelling at Buddy and spraying him with a garden hose. I was livid. I ran over to her and yelled, "What the hell are you doing?" She turned to me, her face red with anger, and screamed, "Your dog is barking." "He's disturbing the peace. I'm just trying to get him to shut up." Buddy was soaked, shivering, and terrified. I grabbed him and brought him inside, my blood boiling. I confronted Brenda again, telling her that she had no right to spray our dog, that she was trespassing, and that I was going to call the police. She just smirked. "Go ahead," she said. "They won't do anything. I'm on the HOA board. I know the rules." That's when it clicked. Brenda wasn't just a crazy neighbor. She was a powerful crazy neighbor. She was using her position on the HOA board to harass us, to make our lives miserable. I didn't call the police that day. I knew she was right. They probably wouldn't do anything. It would just be my word against hers, and she had the HOA on her side. But I decided right then and there that I was done being polite. I was done being reasonable. I was done being the nice guy. I was going to fight back. I started researching HOA rules, local ordinances, everything I could find. I started documenting every interaction with Brenda, every complaint, every threat. I installed security cameras around our property to capture her behavior. I'm building a case. I'm gathering evidence, and I'm planning my revenge. It's going to be epic, and it's going to be completely legal. I'll update when I'm ready to put my plan into action. Stay tuned. This Karen is about to get what's coming to her. Update 1. It's been a few weeks since my original post, and I've been busy, very busy. First, I want to thank everyone for the overwhelming support and advice. I've read every single comment, and I've taken your suggestions to heart. I've also received dozens of private messages from people who have dealt with similar Karen situations, offering their encouragement and sharing their own revenge stories. It's been incredibly validating to know that I'm not alone. As I mentioned in my original post, I've been meticulously documenting every interaction with Brenda. I have a spreadsheet organized by date, time, and type of harassment. I have photos, videos, thanks to the security cameras, and audio recordings, which are legal in my state, as long as one party to the conversation is aware. I've also been researching HOA rules and local ordinances, and I've discovered some interesting things. It turns out that Brenda, despite her constant complaints about our alleged violations, is actually breaking several rules herself. 1. Her fence. Her backyard fence is 6 inches too high, according to HOA regulations. It's a minor infraction, but it's still a violation. 2. Her landscaping. She has several non-native plants in her front yard which are prohibited by the HOA. Again, a minor violation, but a violation nonetheless. 3. Her dog. She has a small, yappy dog that she lets run around her front yard without a leash. This is a violation of both HOA rules and local animal control ordinances. I've seen her dog poop on other people's lawns multiple times, and she never cleans it up. 4. Her home business. This is the big one. Brenda runs a small craft business out of her home. She makes and sells, well, let's just say they're adult-themed crafts. Think crocheted genitalia, knitted naughty bits, and embroidered, well, you get the picture. It's not illegal per se, but it is a violation of HOA rules to run a business out of your home without a permit. And, given the nature of her crafts, it's definitely something that would raise eyebrows in our conservative neighborhood. I've also been talking to other neighbors, discreetly of course. I've learned that Brenda has a reputation for being a bully, for using her position on the HOA board to intimidate and harass people. She's made enemies of several other families on our street, but most people are too afraid to speak out against her. But I'm not afraid. I'm armed with information, with evidence, and with a burning desire for justice. I've also consulted with a lawyer, just to make sure I'm on solid legal ground. He confirmed that I have a strong case for harassment, and he also suggested that I could potentially file a complaint with the HOA against Brenda for her own violations. But I'm not going to go to the HOA yet. I have a different plan, a better plan. I'm going to use Brenda's own tactics against her. I'm going to play her game, but I'm going to play it better. I'm going to expose her hypocrisy, her lies, and her dirty little secrets to the entire neighborhood. And I'm going to do it in a way that she can't ignore, that she can't dismiss, that she can't control. I'll update again soon when I'm ready to put my plan into action. It's going to be glorious. Update 2. Okay, Reddit, it's time. Operation Karen Takedown is officially underway. I've spent the last few weeks meticulously planning this, and I'm confident that it's going to work. I've taken inspiration from some of your suggestions, and I've also come up with a few creative ideas of my own. Here's the plan, broken down into phases. Phase 1, the whispering campaign, subtle and passive-aggressive. This phase is all about planting seeds of doubt, about getting people to question Brenda's authority and her hypocrisy. I'm not going to confront her directly, not yet. I'm going to let the rumors and whispers do the work for me. Step 1, the anonymous tip. I've drafted an anonymous letter detailing Brenda's HOA violations, the fence, the plants, the dog, the home business. I've included photos as evidence. I'm going to mail the letter to the HOA management company, making it look like it came from a concerned neighbor. But not me, obviously. Step 2, the accidental discovery. I've accidentally left a copy of the HOA rules and regulations on my front porch, with the sections about fence height, landscaping, and home businesses highlighted. I'm hoping that other neighbors will see it and start to wonder. Step 3, the casual conversations. I've started having casual conversations with other neighbors, subtly mentioning Brenda's violations. For example, I might say something like, "Oh, I didn't realize you could have non-native plants in your front yard. I thought the HOA was strict about that." Or, "Isn't it funny how Brenda's always complaining about our dog when hers is always running around off-leash?" Step 4, the social media subtlety. My wife Sarah is active on the neighborhood's Facebook group. She started posting subtly about HOA rules, asking innocent questions like, "Does anyone know the exact height limit for fences?" Or, "Are home businesses allowed in our neighborhood?" She's not mentioning Brenda by name, but she's planting the seeds. Phase 1, results. So far, it's only been a few days, but Phase 1 is already having an effect. The HOA management company has sent Brenda a notice about her fence and landscaping violations. She's been given 30 days to correct them. I saw her stomping around her yard yesterday, muttering about nosy neighbors. Several neighbors have stopped by to borrow the HOA rulebook from our porch. They've all commented on the highlighted sections, and I've seen them looking at Brenda's house with curiosity. Sarah's Facebook posts have generated a lot of discussion. People are starting to question Brenda's authority and her double standards. I've overheard a few neighbors talking about Brenda's craft business, wondering what exactly she sells. The whispers are starting. This is just the beginning. Phase 2 is where things get really interesting. Update 3. All right, Reddit, buckle up. Phase 2 of Operation Karen Takedown is officially live, and it's all about the internet. As I mentioned in my previous update, Brenda runs a craft business out of her home, a business that involves, shall we say, adult-themed creations. Now, I'm not judging her for what she makes, to each their own, but given her constant moralizing and her position on the HOA board, I thought it was hypocritical, and I decided to use it against her. Here's what I did. I created a website, a simple, anonymous website dedicated to showcasing Brenda's art. I used a free website builder and I registered a domain name that was similar to her business name, but not exactly the same, to avoid any legal issues. I gathered content. I took photos of Brenda's house, of her fence, of her landscaping, of her dog running around off-leash. I also took screenshots of her HOA violation notices, which I obtained through, a friendly source within the HOA management company. And most importantly, I took photos of her crafts. How did I get photos of her crafts, you ask? Well, let's just say I have a friend who's a bit of a collector of unique items. He accidentally stumbled upon Brenda's online store, which she had cleverly hidden, but not cleverly enough, and ordered a few of her creations. He then graciously allowed me to photograph them for research purposes, of course. I wrote the copy. I wrote a short, informative, and utterly factual description of Brenda's business, her HOA violations, and her general behavior. I didn't use any inflammatory language. I didn't make any personal attacks. I just presented the facts. I also included a contact form where people could submit their own experiences with Brenda. I launched the website. I didn't promote it. I didn't advertise it. I just put it out there. And then I waited. The results have been spectacular. Within 24 hours, the website started getting traffic. A lot of traffic. Apparently, word of mouth travels fast in our neighborhood. The contact form has been flooded with messages. People are sharing their own stories of Brenda's bullying, her hypocrisy, her entitlement. They're expressing their outrage, their disbelief, their amusement. The website has also been shared on the neighborhood's Facebook group, not by me or Sarah, of course. The comments are priceless. People are calling Brenda out, demanding that she resign from the HOA board, even suggesting that she be evicted from the neighborhood. Brenda, of course, is furious. She's figured out that I'm behind the website. I may have dropped a few very subtle hints, and she's threatening to sue me. She's also been sending me nasty texts and voicemails, calling me every name in the book. But I'm not worried. I've done everything legally. I haven't published anything that isn't true. I haven't defamed her. I've simply shared information. And the best part? The website is completely anonymous. She can't prove it's me. Phase 2 is a resounding success. Brenda's reputation is in tatters, her authority is crumbling, and her perfect little world is falling apart. But I'm not done yet. Phase 3 is coming soon, and it's going to be the grand finale. Update 4. It's time for the grand finale. Phase 3 of Operation Karen Takedown, the HOA meeting. After the website launched, things escalated quickly. Brenda was in full panic mode. She knew she was losing control, that her carefully constructed image was crumbling. She tried everything she could to shut down the website, to silence the criticism, to intimidate me into backing down. She sent me a cease and desist letter from a lawyer, a cheap online legal service, I suspect, threatening to sue me for defamation. I ignored it. My lawyer, who I'd kept informed throughout this entire process, assured me that I hadn't done anything illegal. I'd simply shared truthful information, and truth is an absolute defense against defamation. She tried to get the website taken down, claiming it violated the terms of service of the website builder. But the website builder refused, stating that the content didn't violate their policies. She even tried to get the police involved, claiming that I was harassing her. But the police, after reviewing the website and talking to me, told her that it was a civil matter, not a criminal one. She was desperate, and desperate people do desperate things. She called an emergency HOA meeting. She announced that the meeting would be about addressing recent concerns about neighborhood standards and online harassment. It was clear that she was planning to use the meeting to publicly shame me, to rally support against me, to regain control. but I was ready for her. I'd spent the last few days preparing. I'd printed out copies of the website, copies of Brenda's HOA violation notices, copies of the emails and texts she'd sent me, and even copies of some of the more colorful comments from the neighborhood Facebook group. I'd also reached out to several other neighbors who'd had negative experiences with Brenda. I'd asked them to attend the meeting and to be prepared to share their stories. The meeting was held at the community center. It was packed. Everyone in the neighborhood knew something was going down. Brenda started the meeting by giving a long, rambling speech about the importance of community standards, about the need to respect authority, and about the dangers of online bullying. She painted herself as the victim, as a dedicated community servant who was being unfairly attacked by a disgruntled neighbor. She then turned her attention to me. She accused me of creating the website, of spreading lies about her, of harassing her and her family. She demanded that I apologize publicly and take down the website. I stood up calmly. I said, "Brenda, I'm not going to apologize, because everything on that website is true." The room went silent. I then proceeded to present my evidence. I showed the photos of her fence, her landscaping, her dog. I read aloud excerpts from the HOA rules, highlighting. I showed the screenshot, and then I got to the craft business. I held up a few of the more interesting items from her online store. I'd wrapped them in plastic bags for sanitary reasons, of course. The reaction was immediate. People gasped, they whispered, they laughed, they pointed. Brenda's face turned bright red. She started sputtering, denying everything, claiming that the items weren't hers, that I'd planted them, that I was framing her. But it was too late. The damage was done. I then invited the other neighbors to speak. One by one, they stood up and shared their stories. They talked about Brenda's bullying, her intimidation tactics, her constant complaints, her unfair enforcement of HOA rules. One neighbor talked about how Brenda had threatened to fine her for having a slightly overgrown lawn, while Brenda's own lawn was often neglected. Another neighbor talked about how Brenda had yelled at her children for playing basketball in their driveway, claiming it was too noisy. Another neighbor talked about how Brenda had reported her to the city for having a non-approved mailbox, even though the mailbox had been there. The stories went on and on. It was a flood of grievances, a litany of complaints. Brenda tried to interrupt, to shout them down, but no one was listening. Her authority, her credibility, had evaporated. Finally, I spoke again. I said, "Brenda, you've used your position on the HOA board to harass and intimidate your neighbors for years. You've enforced the rules selectively, punishing those you dislike and ignoring your own violation. You've created a climate of fear and resentment in this neighborhood. And now you're trying to silence me, to cover up your own hypocrisy. But it's not going to work. The truth is out. And the truth is, you're a bully, a liar, and a hypocrite." I then made a motion to remove Brenda from the HOA board. The motion was seconded immediately. The vote was unanimous. Brenda was ousted. She stormed out of the meeting, screaming and cursing, but no one followed her. No one defended her. She was alone. Update 5. The weeks following the HOA meeting were transformative. The neighborhood felt lighter, freer. People were smiling at each other, talking to each other, actually enjoying living here. Brenda, of course, was nowhere to be seen. She'd put her house up for sale, and it sold within days. I heard, through the neighborhood grapevine, of course, that she and her husband were moving to another state to start over. I took down the website. There was no need for it anymore. The truth was out, and Brenda was gone. My family and I were finally able to relax, to enjoy our home, to be ourselves. The kids were playing outside again, laughing, being kids. Buddy was happily chasing squirrels in the backyard. Sarah and I were closer than ever, having weathered this storm together. But then, something unexpected happened. I received a letter from the HOA. I opened it nervously, expecting another complaint, another fine, another headache. But it wasn't a complaint. It was an offer. The HOA board, the new HOA board, the one without Brenda, was inviting me to join them. They said that they'd been impressed by my dedication to the community, by my thorough knowledge of the rules, and by my commitment to fairness. They said that they needed someone like me on the board, someone who would stand up for what's right, someone who wouldn't be afraid to challenge the status quo. I was stunned. I never expected this. I talked it over with Sarah. We discussed the pros and cons. It would be a time commitment, a responsibility, but it would also be a chance to make a positive impact on our community, to ensure that what happened with Brenda never happened again. I decided to accept the offer. I'm now a member of the HOA board. and I'm determined to make a difference. I'm determined to create a community that is welcoming, inclusive, and fair. I'm also working on implementing some changes to the HOA rules, making them more reasonable, more equitable, and less Karen-friendly. It's a lot of work, but it's rewarding. It feels good to be part of something positive, to be making a difference. As for Brenda, I haven't heard from her directly, but I've heard rumors. I heard that her craft business isn't doing so well in her new town. Apparently, word of her unique creations has spread online. I heard that her husband is considering leaving her. He's tired of her drama, her negativity, her constant complaining. I heard that she's miserable. And honestly, I don't feel any satisfaction. I don't feel any joy in her suffering. I just feel pity and a sense of closure. The revenge is complete. The Karen has been defeated, and I'm finally able to move on with my life. Update 6, final update. This will be my final update. It's been a while, and I wanted to share some final thoughts and reflections. It's been almost a year since Brenda left our neighborhood, and in that time, a lot has changed, for the better. Our community is thriving. People are friendlier, more connected, more engaged. The HOA is functioning smoothly, fairly, and efficiently. We've implemented several new initiatives, including a community garden, a neighborhood watch program, and a series of social events. My family is doing well. My kids are happy, healthy, and thriving in school. They've made new friends, they're involved in extracurricular activities, and they're no longer afraid to play in their own backyard. Sarah and I are stronger than ever. We've been through a lot together, and it's brought us closer. We've learned to communicate better, to appreciate each other more, and to never take our relationship for granted. As for me, I've changed too. I'm more confident, more assertive, more willing to stand up for what I believe in. I've also learned the importance of forgiveness, of letting go of anger and resentment. I don't hate Brenda. I don't wish her any harm. I just hope she finds peace somehow. I hope she learns from her mistakes, that she changes her ways, that she finds a way to live a happier, more fulfilling life. But I'm also not going to forget what she did. I'm not going to pretend it didn't happen. I'm going to use that experience as a reminder to always be vigilant, to always stand up for what's right, to always protect my family and my community. I've learned a lot from this whole ordeal. I've learned about the power of community, the importance of standing up to bullies, and the dangers of unchecked entitlement. I've also learned that revenge, while sometimes satisfying in the short term, is ultimately a hollow victory. The true reward comes from healing, from moving on, from building a better life for yourself and those you love. And that's what I'm doing. I'm focusing on the present, on the future, on the positive things in my life. I'm grateful for the support I've received from this community. You've helped me through a difficult time, and I'll never forget it. Thank you. That's all for this story. I'll be back with another one. If you haven't already, please consider subscribing to the channel. It motivates me to create more content like this.